So again, this is Shabbos Parshas Matos Masei, and we are finishing the Chumash Bamidbar, the book of Numbers. And we're saying Chazak, Chazak v'nit Chazek, and especially we are in middle of the 3 weeks that we mourn of the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. The Rebbe says that the point of these 3 weeks is to help us to move forward, to look forward, how we build the new Beis Hamikdash. How we do it is by learning Torah, how we do it is by giving tzedakah, by looking positively in the way we can build the Beis Hamikdash, especially in the Shabbos of these 3 weeks. We gain extra strength because really inside everything what Hashem does is good. And then the Shabbos that we're not allowed to mourn, we only have the good part of it. So there is a very interesting, a powerful lesson actually, that we learn from one of the stories that is mentioned in this week's Torah portion. And it is something that Rashi, the commentator, that he comments on everything with it, that is questionable, that is not understood. And this story, Rashi doesn't comment anything, as we will explain. What it says in the Torah, we read about the story of Midian, the war of Midian. The Midianites, of course, were those who caused the Jewish people to sin with the daughters. And Hashem said to Moshe Rabbeinu, he commanded him to go and take revenge from the Midianites. And there was a miraculous war. Each one of the tribes contributed 1,000 soldiers. And they took 1,000 soldiers from each tribe, and they went and they fought the war, and miraculously every single person came back alive. And the Torah tells us about the spoil, what they took from the war. And we see in the spoil, the Torah is very, brings it down in details. It brings down in details what they took from the war and how it was divided. So Hashem commands Moshe Rabbeinu. He tells him after they won the war, they brought all of the spoil. What was the spoil? They brought the people, they brought the animals, and all other things, all kinds of jewelry and all kinds of things that they brought from the war. And Hashem says to Moshe Rabbeinu, take everything and you should divide it between the people who go to the war and the rest of the people. And then you should take a tax from the people of the war. They should take 0.2%, and they should give him to Elazar, the high priest. And from the half that we give to the rest of the people, we should take 2%, and that should go to the Levites. And then the Torah says Moshe Rabbeinu did exactly what Hashem commanded him, Moshe and Elazar. And then the Torah goes down in details and tells exactly each thing how much it was, and how much gain went to the people from or went to the war, and how much tax went to Elazar, and each particular things. And the question is, why does the Torah bring it down in so much details? Why do we need to know all these details? It says there was just a second. Okay, here we go. So it says like this. Okay, so you see what it says over here. It tells them, um, the Lord spoke to Moshe, saying, "Take the count of the plunder of the captive, the people and animals, you together with Elazar the Cohen and the paternal leaders of the community, and you shall divide the plunder equally between the warriors who went out to the battle and to the entire congregation. And you shall Levi a tax, and so on and so forth." And then we see further over here, and then it goes to the details. Okay, here. The plunder which was in addition to the spoils that the army had spoiled consisted of 675,000 sheep, 72,000 cattle, 61,000 donkeys. As for the people of the women who had no experience of intimate relation with a man, all souls were 32,000, and so on. Then the Torah goes on and says further, look, the half that was the portion of those who went out of the battle, the number of sheep was 337,500. I mean, the Torah is so careful. It goes on and on and on and on, and telling all the details how much was each thing. The question is, the Torah is so careful with every word that the Torah says. The Torah is very careful. So why would the Torah spend so much to tell us about all the details? How much is each thing? Why is that important? And what is more interesting is that Rashi doesn't even bother asking this question. We know that Rashi, the famous commentator, he always, whenever there's an issue, there's a problem, Rashi asks the question, why? Why does the Torah do this? Here, Rashi doesn't say a thing, nothing. So that is the question. And the Rebbe comes and gives a very interesting explanation with a very powerful lesson. So the Rebbe says as follows. One interesting fact we see from here is that the Torah tells us exactly how much it was. It was a huge amount of cattle and people. We're talking about the tens of thousands. And what is interesting is that nothing was changed from the time they went to war until they brought everything back. From the day they took this until they took it and they divided it, everything was, not a single thing was missing. That's what the Ramban, the Nachmanides says. I'm going to read it inside. It's in Hebrew, but I'm going to read it inside. Let's share this. It says here, says the Ramban, okay, it says the Ramban is emetaretz, that utzrach hakosov lefaret hazeh, sheyazke kama amechza v'kama amechas. Why does the Torah let us know that from the day they took this until they counted it and they gave it to Elazar the Cohen, nobody died. The people, and not from the cattle, and that was a miracle. And the same thing was from the other half. Everything was exactly what. So, however, the question is, why would a God make such a miracle? I mean, it's not a real miracle like splitting the sea, but it's still very, very unusual that you have so many thousands that you have schlepping from war. Naturally, cattle die 1, 2, 5, 10, whatever. But here, everything was exactly the way it was divided. I mean, so why was it necessary? So the Rebbe brings and says something. Gives a very interesting explanation, and a very good lesson also. The Rebbe says that God commanded them that I want to make it that it should be given, divided in half. Whatever is giving is brought as spoil should be divided in half. Now, in order to divide in half, and then not only in half, and God says exactly what should to do. It should be divided in half, and then from the half that the people, the warriors have, they should give 1 of 500 to Elazar the Cohen, which means 0.2%, and from the people, the rest of the people who get the other half, they should give 2%. And the interesting thing is that, and in a natural way, the question is, when you take a lot of cattle, okay? God says, give half here and half here. What do you do with the leftovers? Let's say there was 201. So you have, how did you divide it? You can't divide 201. Are you going to cut off an animal in half? Or a person? You can't. So what do you do with the leftovers? So the interesting thing is that there was no leftovers. It was such an amazing thing that all the cattle and all the people that they received from the war, it was divisible. It was able to be divided exactly to half, and it was able to be divided exactly to 2% and exactly to 0.2%. All of this was really very unusual that something like this happens. Okay. And why? The question is, why did Hashem make this? That it should be divided in such a way. Says the Rebbe, very simple. That Hashem commanded them a mitzvah to do. If there is a mitzvah to do, Hashem wants you to do the mitzvah. And when He wants you to do the mitzvah, He enables you to do the mitzvah. What was the mitzvah? To be divided in half. That was the mitzvah that day. For whatever reason, God decided that this should be done. But God wanted it should be divided in half. And it should be 0.2% from them and 2% from the rest of the people. And here, the Torah goes in details to tell you, repeats how much it was and how much it was divided. And the Torah spends so much words and so much ink, so many words, in order to teach us the lesson. And the lesson is that when God commands us to do a mitzvah, He enables us to do the mitzvah. He makes sure that this mitzvah should be done. And if you think about it, it is really, really amazing, because not only when they divided the thing that was exactly, but think about when the Midianites, when they were doing business and they were buying and selling, and it so happened that this was the exact number that they had, and the moment when the Jews came and they took it from them. So everything what happens is for that purpose. Everything for what happens for the purpose. Things that are happening in the world. People are doing business. We think, people are doing business and they're doing everybody's happy. They're doing whatever they do. But it's all for one purpose. It's all for the purpose that a Jew should be able to fulfill God's wish. And here, this is the lesson that the Rebbe takes from this. And we're gonna read it inside how in Hebrew how the Rebbe says this. Is the Rebbe that from here al pize yesh levaya. Now we understand why the pasuk talks so much about it, because this is something that affects us all. The simple lesson we'll learn from it. Ad kam magdoila chavivus kiyum hamitzvos al yedei bnei Yisrael. How much it is dear by Hashem, the mitzvah that a Jew does, that there's so many variables, so many things that was almost impossible that it should happen that way. Kama vekama inyanim delo shchiche klal klal karu venasu happened ubelvad shebnei Yisrael yekaimu mitzvah b'shlemusa. The goal is that a Jew should be able to fulfill the mitzvah properly. Not only when the person does the mitzvah, does Hashem make it there shouldn't be interference, but even before it comes to do the mitzvah, Hashem makes things, all kind of events to take place in the world, in order so after a while, a Jew would be able to fulfill the mitzvah properly. And in our case, that the men and the people of Midian all of them were just the exact number, and it kept that number for such a long time, and no one of them died, not the people and not the animals, so that the Jews can come and do the mitzvah exactly the way how Hashem wanted to do the mitzvah. Says the Rebbe finally, and from here we have a lesson to each and every Jew. We should not be afraid, we should not be affected by any kind of interference. When you want to do a good thing, and then there comes all kind of troubles and all kind of challenges and all kind of interference, and that tells you, it's impossible to do. Ve'im lefa'amim nidme ke'ilu ein beyacholet lekayem mitzvah. If sometimes it looks like as if it's impossible to do the mitzvah, says the Rebbe, al yechush, do not be afraid. You should be certain in Hashem, Shakadosh Baruch Hu sibe veyesabe sibois ve'ad sheyuchal lekayim hamitzvos b'shlemusa. Hashem will make everything, it will go out of his way and make all kinds of events to take place, so the person, a Jew, should be able to fulfill the mitzvah completely and properly. So this is, says the Rebbe, this is the lesson. This is why, that's the way the Rebbe looks at things. You look at the whole list in the Torah, and you read all of these details, and you think, why? Why does the Torah give us all the details? And Rashi doesn't bother explaining. And the Rebbe says that's because that's a so simple explanation that Rashi doesn't need to explain this. And the explanation is very simple. Hashem makes sure that He gave a commandment, make it half. So He tells us exactly how the mitzvah was performed, exactly the way Hashem wants. So basically, this is also the lesson in these 3 weeks when we are working and building the Beis HaMikdash. Hashem wants us to do it. Of course, Hashem can come and bring a Beis HaMikdash from above. We had 2 temples, 2 Beis HaMikdash. The first Beis HaMikdash, the second Beis HaMikdash, both were destroyed. There's a difference between the first one and the second one. The first one, the first temple, was all the beautiful, amazing miracles there. Godliness was revealed. Was a lot of good, powerful things. And the second Beis HaMikdash, the second temple, was not so much godliness revealed. It was missing a few things, and the godliness was not as revealed in the second Beis HaMikdash like in the first Beis HaMikdash. And the question is why? After all, when we're talking about holiness, we are supposed to go higher and higher. It says Ma'alim b'kodesh. When you're doing something good, never go down. You have to go higher. You have to go up. You study Torah. You can't go down with studying Torah. You have to increase. You give tzedakah. You always have to increase. Ma'alim b'kodesh. And everything what you do, a person is constantly supposed to go bigger and bigger. Can't go back. And the answer is, so why was it the second temple like this that seemed to be less of holiness? And the answer is because the less is more. What does that mean? That the less holiness was something, it was less holiness, but it was something that it came from the people. It came something that they invested. And that's what Hashem wants. He wants us to put our investment. When we invest our effort, our energy, and we connect with the mitzvah, we connect with the holiness, and that becomes ours, becomes permanently ours. But then this is when Hashem enables us. That is going to be in the time of the Mashiach now. Mashiach is revealed. It is a combination of both, a combination of our investment and the revelation from above, that we will reach such a level that we will go with giving the best, everything what we've got, and Hashem will give everything that He has. The essence of Hashem will be revealed. That will be very, very soon, waiting for Mashiach to come, and waiting for this to happen very soon. So, any questions? Now's the time.